Well, good morning. That was quite an introduction. I've spoken many times on Concord, but I can tell you that roads are more exciting, more demanding, and make a bigger contribution to our economy. So I'm Jim O'Sullivan, and I am actually delighted to be here this morning. It's interesting, the strategic road network only accounts for 2% of the total roads, but it's 70% of freight movements, it's 33% of all journeys, and today probably 4 million people will have used it going about their activities. Again, as you probably know, Highways England was launched in April last year with a 5-year plan. It's the first time we've had a 5-year plan. Roads historically have been subject to the vagaries of annual funding, which, given that the average flyover takes about 5 to 7 years from inception of an idea through planning processes through to building, annual funding is probably not the best way to deliver 7-8-year projects. When I arrived, as I said, I arrived about 2 months after the company was formed, and we had 3 imperatives, or I found that we needed 3 imperatives to make that shift from government agency to company. I would say to this audience that it's still very much work in progress. We've done some good things, I'll talk about those, but we are still very much a work in progress. An organisation the size of Highways England, with the size of the programme that we're delivering, doesn't change overnight. But the 3 imperatives that we had to focus on, the first was safety, the second was customer service as opposed to public service, and the third was delivery, a £13 billion delivery programme handed to us as a portfolio as opposed to a string of projects, takes a different mindset to deliver it. So how are we doing? Well, in the first 12 months, we had a commitment to deliver 5 schemes, to complete and open 5 schemes, which we did. One of them was the 453 here in the Midlands. We continued work on 11, and we started at 8 more. So we had about 20-something schemes of our 113 that we're committed to deliver in progress in the first year. We've added about 90 miles of capacity through the Smart Motorway programme and new roads, and we've committed to resurfacing about 1,200 miles, which we did in that first year. The target for network open to traffic is 98%. We have done an awful lot of work in the last 12 months, largely lessons learned from experiences on the M6 early last year in terms of our contingency management, our on-road management, messaging to customers. And at the other end of the network, in fact, not even part of the strategic network at all, we helped out Cumbria with the flooding last February. It was a very unusual request to be asked to repair a road that was to repair a road which was not part of the strategic road network, but in cooperation with the National Park, Cumbria County Council, and a number of local businesses, we actually put the 591. My promise to Patrick McLaughlin, the then Secretary of State, is, Patrick, when we're finished, you won't even know we've been here, because some of the locals thought it's Highways England. We're going to get some steel girders, some concrete bridges, and 6 lanes. But when we had finished that road, and I would recommend that you visit Cumbria, I'd recommend that you go walk it. If you can find a trace of Highways England activity, then I'll be quite disappointed. So that gives you a taste of our first year. In their report in the first year, the Department of Transport, Tricia's here, so I'll have to be honest, and Peter Antelik from ORR is here, so I'll have to be doubly honest. But both said we've made a good start. Both recognise that there's still a lot to do, but that it was a good start. So let's go through the priorities. Safety. There's a lot to do here. When I started here a year ago, every contractor working for Highways England, their safety performance was worse than their group average. And one of the things I've learned over the years is that actually the first requirement of safety performance in a contractor is a demanding client. If you demand safety, then you'll get it. And I'm pleased to say that after 12 months, all of those contractors now have safety performances at Highways England better than their group average. There are 2 left, and we've got an improvement programme with them to improve that. It took about 6 or 9 months. For our internal staff, the accident rate was embarrassing. For traffic officers working out in the motorway network, that's a real concern. But I'm pleased to say that even that has now finally started to come down to what I call acceptable levels. And for road users, the target is in absolute numbers. Regardless of economic growth, we want the absolute number of people killed on our roads to fall year on year, and we have ultimately a 0 target. And this year, we have reversed a recent trend. We saw kick up in casualties when the economy kicked up. This year, we've reversed that trend. We see 3 keys to that. The first is, which is the one you've picked out, vehicle technology. The second is driver behaviour, and we are working and treating our drivers in our messaging much more like adults. But if you bring 2 tons of machinery onto our road network, which is the weight of the average 4x4, and you expect to operate it at 70 mile an hour, you have responsibilities as to how that equipment is operated. And we are starting to expect and demand responsible behaviour from the users of our road network. And the third is the design of the road network itself, changing junctions. It is a fact that motorways are twice as safe as dual carriageways. That's true in all their guises, smart motorways and conventional motorways, twice as safe as dual carriageways. Why? It's the sight lines, it's the absence of bicycles and other vulnerable users, it's the fact that you don't come to roundabouts, all the grade junctions are graded, it's the quality of the crash barriers, it's the quality of the signage and the information provided. So we know that if we bring some of that learning to other parts of the road network, we can improve the safety. In terms of customer service, I spoke about 4 million. To me, the difference between public service and customer service is working out what people need and providing it. Customer service is working out what people need and what they want and providing that. And we have had a number of lessons in the last 12 months. You'll have seen our time to the next junction technology. That's brand new. That's a new IT system in our control rooms. It allows us to do that. We do it by tracking mobile phones, by ANPR and the like. That's new technology. Some of the things we do, we've learnt by asking customers. So I'll give you an example. Many of you will have seen our signs which say, "My dad works here." And what we've found is that for the first couple of weeks, a proportion of our road users actually like those signs. And it connects them to the road worker. And they think, yeah, I will just bear that in mind as I'm driving through this section of roadworks. When we've been there for 9 months, and it's a Saturday morning, and that sign is still there, and there's nobody working, that sign just winds people up. So we have learnt, new roadworks, lots of information, put those signs out early. Once they lose their impact, just quietly take them away. And we have learnt that by talking to customers. Regarding delivery, the third imperative, we continue at pace. We're about to start on the biggest work upgrade, which is here in the Midlands. It's the £1.5 billion to improve the A14 between Cambridge and Huntingdon. It's about 21 miles of the existing road and takes about 20 minutes off the journey time between the Midlands and the Harwich and the other ports. It's the most advanced and the biggest of our schemes grouped together as what we call the Complex Infrastructure Programme, and it's an exemplar of the way that we need to work into the future. It has a major focus on collaboration, where all involved are sharing the same objectives. If we're successful, then the 4 major contractors involved will also be successful. Four contractors, 2 designers, underpinned by our key imperatives. We've also opened a training academy out there called the West Anglia Training Association, and that's a very good example of collaboration. They've actually laid a section of road within the academy where we can train apprentices on how to do roadworks. And that's significant because apprentices and graduates are key to providing strong early talent. And I'm very pleased that this year we have doubled our graduate intake from last year, and last year we had doubled it from the year before. So this year we're taking over 50 graduates and around 35 apprentices. And they will help and grow our capacity. The graduates that we're taking on today, in 3 years' time, at the start of RIS 2, will find themselves leading major projects. By the time we get to RIS 3, these people will probably be the leaders in our industry. So this is hugely important to us. RIS 2, we're about to publish our route strategies in March. We will be looking for a lot of feedback and a lot of input. We've divided the country into 18 route strategies. We want to consult far more widely and engage far more widely on these. So, for instance, how does the traffic get to the strategic road network? How do we disperse that traffic from the strategic road network? What are the diversion routes? These are all areas where we want to be more involved with local authorities and with regional transport authorities in the next RIS, where perhaps we would be building on the involvement that we had tried to do in the first RIS. The RIS process will generate our business and delivery plans for the next 5 years, so it is important that people are engaged in them. And we're currently in what we call the evidence phase. So what that will do is there will be a strategic road network initial report, and I would encourage all of you and stakeholders that you know to make sure that your views have been reflected into that initial report. But at the end, we all agree that by the time we get to, the last piece of work that I will talk about or mention is that we are now working on a 2040 plan. And historically, that's a huge change for us, because what we're saying is, what should this road network look like in 25 years' time? So as we go into RIS2, it's not that there's £30 million available for this area. How do we spread it across? Maybe we improve a couple of up ramps or down ramps or change a roundabout. We should look at that 30 million as part of a 30-year programme. If we're visiting this area many times over the next 30 years, how should we spend this first 30 million or this first 50 million? And that way, we should be creating national infrastructure as opposed to just improving local schemes, which maybe in 5 or 10 years' time are no longer fit for purpose, and we actually have to dig up as part of the next subsequent improvement. So, thank you very much for your time this morning, and I look forward to some questions after the other speakers. Thank you.